Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. I see some folks trickling in, so I won't kick off officially for another, let's say 30 seconds or not. But you all are at the right place here at BuildOps, and we're going to be talking about four trends in 2026 that you can't ignore. Actually, as we wait for folks to trickle in, we got some more folks coming in. My kid's obsessed with snow globes, right? And so I have a cool snow globe that has like a nutcracker inside of it, and I was going to bring it out here, and I was going to shake it and pretend like it's my crystal ball thing, but then I was like, "God, that's really over-enginered, and a little false and fake." So I did not do that, but now I'm actually kicking myself because I think it's kind of cool, pretending like I'm looking at a crystal ball. Anyway, all right, we're 2 minutes over, so we're going to go in. I want to respect everyone's time. I see folks still trickling in. So again, you are here at BuildOps, and we're talking about the four trends that contractors can't ignore in 2026. So before we kick off, let me do some introductions. My name is RC. My tagline here does not say RC, it says BuildOps, so I apologize for that. But I'm RC, and I run our brand and content over at BuildOps. Folks who don't know, BuildOps is mission control for commercial contractors. You can check it out at buildops.com. If you're in the commercial contracting game, we're for you. And then to introduce my panel, I'm going to start off with Woody, please, first. Mr. Woodall.
Sure. My name is Woody Woodall. I've been in the industry for about 50 years and worked just about everything there, done just about everything there is to do with a mechanical contractor
Mhm.
focused on service. And so that's who I am. I was lucky enough to connect with the Build Ops folks many years ago, and it's been a great relationship.
Can I interject to just say Woody is a legend, by the way. And if he really listed out all the things that he has accomplished and his titles, 30 minutes would be up. Uh,
RC, my wife has a different word than legend when she describes me. That's for damn sure.
David.
Yeah, nice to meet everyone. My name is David Hinkley Jr. I'm a director of sales at DMH Electric. I've not been in the industry for 50 years. I've only been in the industry for about 5 or 6 now. I have a pretty diverse background from different parts of construction, but now solely focused on the electrical side of it for both service and construction.
Yeah, and we chose this panel for a bunch of different reasons, including for example, the variety in the industry and the focus areas that they are. So we make sure that we're really checking off all the boxes for the folks who are in attendance today. A couple more things for housekeeping before we jump in. So you should see a Q&A icon button in your Zoom. That's how you would interact with us. I'll monitor the Q&As. If you have any questions, comments, what have you, I'll take a look at them and try to integrate them into the webinar itself. If not, our team can follow up with you after the fact as well. And then you'll see, I believe I have two poll questions for this session pop up. If you can just answer those poll questions for us, it helps us really gear the conversation toward what matters most to you all in the audience. So with that, let's jump in. So we'll focus on four specific trends and areas that we should be looking at for 2026. But before we do that, I kind of want to set the landscape, and you all can, David and Woody, you can jump in as you see fit, or we can just kind of go through that. But there are some external, I mean, it's not net new information for anyone here, but there are external factors that are shaping our perceptions of what we need to be worried about and excited about in 2026, including the labor gap. That's not new for anybody. I think the average age of folks in trades is in the 50s. So we already have a labor gap, and that's only going to widen because, folks are going to retire, right? So the decisions we make, things we focus on, certainly have to address that. Uh, there's a rising complexity of work. Things are getting more complicated. Things are getting more technical. There's rising costs. David, you and I during a prep call talked about the cost of copper. I think it was over $5. You got tariffs. You got supply chains. There's a lot of messiness there as well. I know that kind of complexity. I mean, the rising cost and complexity of work. We're also like we surveyed like 600 or so contractors for a report we did last fall, and that was very top of mind for them. But at the same time, they were very excited. Even though it was more complex work, they're very excited. And this is another reason for the external factors that kind of dictate what we should focus on. There's a lot of momentum, like new construction, mega projects, data centers, electrification of this and that. Like there's a lot of opportunity. And that in and of itself specifically is what contractors were really excited about for the next 2 or 3 years about like the prospects for them and their businesses. Uh, it's interesting. This is a personal plug. I have a podcast with BuildOps called Commercial Grade. Episode one, for folks who don't know, Greg Crumpton, you should check out the episode. He's fantastic. He's a legend as well. What do you guys are legends? I get to talk to all these legends.
Good friend of Greg's.
Nice. And so during this conversation, he talked about how I'm going to quote him specifically here. I don't want to misquote him. We don't have nearly enough people to build the facilities that we need for the AI to live in. We meaning folks in trades, are now the throttle on AI growth. That's super exciting, but that's also
Yeah,
kind of a lot of pressure.
scary. Yeah.
That is scary. That is scary. So with all that on the table, like this is what we're all faced with. This is all what we're all thinking about for 2026. So we have four things that we want to dive into, and true to form, I'm going to actually set up our first poll question here to make sure that y'all let us know. Oh, see, Zoom just changes everything on me. Hold on. There we go. Let's check this out. Polls should be on your screen. I'm going to read it to everyone. Where are you feeling the most pressure heading into 2026? So you got hiring and retaining skilled labor, managing more complex jobs, rising costs and tighter margins, or keeping up with tools, tech, admin, or all of the above. So submit your answers, and we'll get kicked off. And as this poll close off, I'll integrate that into the conversation. So starting with topic number one, the trend number one, David and Woody. And so for context for everyone, we kind of met beforehand and shaped the four ideas we wanted to talk about. Number one, turning knowledge into an advantage. David, you had a lot to say about this during our prep call, specifically with your region. Can you talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, I mean, turning knowledge into any sort of advantage is key. I think for all of our technicians, our office staff, honestly, anyone in general, whether you're in the trades or not, it's trying to double down on what's happening around us and figure out what we can do to better advance our team that then's going to advance our customers and get some of that work done. So what you were saying earlier, we're kind of that throttle for AI.
Mm-hmm.
In reality, we are. If we don't have technicians who know what they're doing when it comes to doing the electrical work for building AI data centers, then there's not going to be any AI data centers. If we don't have other trades, right? There's a lot of HVAC that goes into data centers. There's a lot of cooling that's needed. If people don't understand that, that's going to be, again, a throttle there that's going to pause AI from advancing. So how can we try to double down on some of that knowledge? We've started having some, I'd say, free training for some of our technicians. Some of it we're going to pay for the guys to go through the schooling. Other times it's voluntary. Hey, who do we want to learn? Who wants to learn? What do you want to learn? And we try to advance our team because that helps us understand, who do we have in our team? Who's trying to invest in themselves? Who are those people that then we should invest in? So that way we can start offering more for our customers.
What about like turning knowledge of what's available in your regions in terms of cost savings, right? And transferring that to, like, tell me a little bit more about it. You talked about specifically in your region as well, like there are some rebate programs essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, so electrification rebates are really big, and I'd say kind of like a lot of the smile states, it seems like there's a lot of investment. Massachusetts and New England in particular, where I'm located, we're doing rebate programs for EV charging infrastructure upgrades. So anything to get DC fast, level 2 charging out in the public, that's where there's a lot of money. So that's coming from the utility and our state programs. I know numerous other states have that across the country. We've had some federal tax credits as well over the past few years that have helped make that investment. It's tough. People don't understand that just to do a DC fast charger is automatically a six-figure project. Mm-hmm. And when you start talking to that with customers, they're like, oh, I thought it was like a gas pump that dispensed electricity. Well, it is, but there's civil work that's involved. There's electrical work that's involved. And usually the power was never built there. We have the oldest grid in the nation up in the Northeast. So nobody planned back 100 years ago when they were starting the electrical grid that we're going to have electric vehicles at every corner of like we have gas stations. So now we're trying to work with the utility companies to make sure we can get more power. They've said, hey, we have a lot of money that we can give you. So we've had some projects where we've got 70 to 80% of project costs covered due to that. Not everyone has been familiar with that. So it's allowed us to have that competitive advantage because we had that knowledge. So talking to a customer, hey, it might be $100,000, but we might have $70,000 to $80,000 worth of rebates that we can get you. And now your cost is 20 to 30 out of pocket.
It's amazing, David, to hear you talk about that. It's the same way on the mechanical side too, buddy. And the fact of the matter is, you almost have to have somebody designated as a champion looking into all of those opportunities for savings for the clients, not only on the local county level, but on the state level and also on the regional level, and as we've seen on the federal level even. So if you don't have somebody doing that, you're kind of playing catch up because companies like yours, companies like many of them I know of in the Washington, D.C. area are doing the exact same thing. They've got a specific person monitoring, measuring, deciding, helping people understand what should we actually chase, what is sort of a boondoggle that's not going to work, and how do we get in on all of this kind of stuff.
Is this a full-time role for this person? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting some feedback here. Is this a full-time role for this person, or are they doing other things as well? What else are these people doing?
They're also project managers, they're salespeople, they're different things like
Okay.
that.
Okay.
But the fact of the matter is, we're finding more and more of their time is being spent focusing really on the rebates and the opportunities to help our clients get what they need in a more economical way.
Got it.
But
I do want to bring in the interesting is nearly 60%. So for that first poll, where are you feeling the most pressure heading into 2026? Nearly 60% of you said all of the above. So yeah, it is skilled labor, managing more complex jobs, rising costs, keeping up with tools, tech, and admin. So it's all of the above, right? So you're not. I guess the good news is you all are not alone when you're feeling that way. Um,
I'm
can
honestly
we
surprised that it's only 60%. I'd love to know more of how the other 40% is managing the rest of the stuff.
noted?
and
Yeah,
that's true.
if you have any
And that's true.
thoughts, Q&A, please use it. All right, number two, upgrading skills for new kinds of work. So there are new kinds of work. So I have here some lists here. EV, battery, smart panel work wasn't covered. Things that didn't exist a decade ago or 15 to 20 years ago. Um, how are you approaching, and you touched on this a little bit, David, in the previous segment, but how are you approaching ensuring that your team is set up for success in a new kind of environment that they might not have, or at least the older folks might not have uh, been trained to do?
Yeah, I mean, you brought it up earlier. The average age in the construction industry is 50, right, or somewhere in the 50s. And we think about all of the stuff that we're doing now with battery storage, EV charging, smart panels. That's all technology based. It's
Right.
programming, it's app based. It's a lot of stuff that those guys who are in their older side have never even experienced. Versus some of our younger guys, they've gone to school since elementary school. They had an iPad in their hand. So it's kind of now having a knowledge transfer from some of the older guys who can teach, hey, this is how we do larger things, right? Big wire pulls, things like that. But now some of these younger guys who are starting to teach them, this is how you use your iPad. This is how we write an email. This is how we do all of our notations at the end of the job on technology rather than on paper. So it's kind of that transfer of knowledge between the two. Um, Going into it, we started having guys who really kind of would fight EV at the start. And they're still a little bit there. And at first, it was mainly because they just didn't believe in it. They like their diesel trucks, they like all
Yeah.
this other stuff. And it's like, okay, we get it. But guys, it's work, right? There's a huge opportunity in front of us. So we started out with some voluntary training. Hey, who's interested in learning this? We had like 2 or 3 people who started looking at it. Mind you, we have about 60 people in the field. So two
Okay.
or three is a pretty small
Yep.
number for guys who are interested in doing it. They started doing it. They liked it. A couple more started to see it. Well, we got so busy this year with EV projects, we had to start getting other people involved in doing it. And we started doing a little bit more mandatory training for some of our team. And you could all of a sudden see, wow, this is actually a lot more complex than I thought. I thought these were just plug and play. It wasn't interesting, wasn't that. Now that they've started and kind of were somewhat forced to learn it, it's made a big difference on, I think, company morale and started to see, well, maybe I should learn about the next technology too. Like our company, we personally missed the solar bubble.
Mm.
That was an opportunity where we didn't jump into the business at that time, but EV, we jumped into it really hard and we tried to grow it. It was tough with a little bit of resistance, but now that we had more training and we've got opened it up, starting with voluntary to a little bit more mandatory, we started to see more of the team that realizes, hey, maybe next time I should listen and I should join that next training.
Woody, before I move it over to you, David, you talked about how younger folks in the trades right now have grown up with iPads, etc. But that does not mean that they're still entering the workforce trained specifically for the trades, right? Like just because you have an iPad or enter whatever net new tool that we have, uh, there's still a level of like, I guess, vertical specific and industry specific training that are, this is just a random question, like off the top of my head, but like our schools, our training programs setting up younger folks and anybody else who's coming in through that program for success, or there's still a lot of knowledge gaps in terms of like how to use technology today to address these new ways of work, essentially.
think it actually goes back to the conversation we had before this started, where there's a bigger knowledge gap now. Just because they have all this technology doesn't necessarily mean they're learning the basic skill sets that are needed. They're relying too much on the technology
Oh
or,
yeah,
or, or
we'll
tool
get into
sets
some
or
of that
things
later.
like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
It's funny because we talked about this as a team this morning, where we're actually going next week and presenting to one of the local trade schools. And when I had gone last year to do a tour of the new trade school that they had all this beautiful machinery for bending pipe, wire pulling, all this stuff. They'll never see that in the field. It works in a controlled
yeah.
environment, but it
Interesting.
doesn't necessarily work in a building that doesn't have power yet, right? So how can you manage to utilize all of these tools and have all these things? So they're learning with the latest and greatest technology, but they're not necessarily learning how to build a building from scratch. They're inside of a heated and ventilated building doing this type of training. So there's still a very large gap, and if anything, it's probably getting further and further apart.
I would agree with you 100%, David. I think all of I think there's a big challenge for all of the kids coming through middle school, high school, in what direction they want to go. I think we've heard it on the news tons and tons of time about, the need for more money for trade schools and different things like that. I'm fortunate. I sort of live in the union world, so that our trade schools are pretty proactive, pretty focused, up there high. To the point you were just making, we've actually moved our one of our classes to the outside because we want the guys to get used to working out in the weather when it's cold, doing the things that they're going to actually have to do on a construction job, especially when it's first coming under construction. But the one thing that I think, David, you mentioned earlier was the need for all of this new technology, and it seems as though, being somebody who's been really active in the training side of our union here in Washington, D.C., it seems as though we can't keep up. It's the technology is changing. It seems like almost daily. On our side, we've got new refrigerants that are coming in right now, new ways of cooling data centers, new ways of cooling AI. The fact of the matter is AI takes double the amount of cooling needed that a normal data center would. So it seems like we're all at a foot race trying to stay ahead of it and keep working. And it is for us in management that are running companies, what's going to be the new next thing? Damned if I know, but I know it's around the corner, and I know that I got to keep my ear to the railroad track to make sure that I'm paying attention.
Is there a scalable solution to avoiding this hamster wheel sort of like learn? Like, I mean, I feel it as well, like in my sector as well. Like there's always a new thing to adopt and to train on and to learn, and then 3 months later, if that's outdated and no longer it's useless, basically. Like, is that the new normal for us, or is there any conversations going on like how to quite literally make this more feasible so that people are not constantly running around in this thing where you're just testing new
Yeah,
things that like all of a sudden like are outdated 3 months later? Like, it's crazy.
yeah. In my opinion, I think there needs to be more communication between the engineering side of the business, what's coming down the
Oh,
road, what do they see, and the construction side of the business. All right, this is what you think is going to be the next step. What do we have to do to get ready to make sure that we're ready for that next step? And I think if we could do that a little bit more, I think it would help tremendously.
hmm.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we're at a time in history now that I think nobody has really experienced, where everything is changing so rapidly. You get a new iPhone every single year, you get a new laptops coming out, all this new technology. BuildOps comes out with a new update every week. Like, think about how often things are changing opposed to what they might have previously done, where maybe you just had a new model of vehicle once and there was barely any changes, add a little different paint color or something like that. But now
Yeah.
the technology, you're doing updates over the internet, right? If you buy a Tesla, you could buy a Tesla and it would just constantly update over the internet instead of having to bring it into a shop to do it. So you think the technology is going to change. It's going to be really tough for us to keep up with that, but also realizing construction has always been 10 to 15 years behind a lot of this. And so now that we are the throttle for a lot of it, we're kind of going to have to either control the pace to some extent because we can't build a data center quick enough, or we can't build the new infrastructure that's needed, but also funding is going to be a huge part of it. And like, not only are you going to have raising costs, well, it can't be the contractors that are going to eat those raising costs, but the owners or building owners or businesses aren't going to want to pay those costs. So there's got to be something to kind of have almost like a reset to just say, hey, we need to get all of this going and kind of have a really solid plan so everybody can get on the same page.
Yeah. Random question. I'm not trying to say that I mean, you already called out 50 years, so I'm not saying anything that new. But so in your experience, is this the most chaotic, complex environment of the trades, or is this just slacked on with a different code of AI technology, and it's par for the course? Like, this is just always has
Yeah.
been like this.
You know, I've seen so many changes, not only in techniques of installing, pieces of equipment and piping and all those kinds of things. I've seen so many changes. That all being said, to answer your question directly, I believe this is the change that we've had in the past times five. It seems as though things are just moving so quickly. It seems, when we did our first data center in the Washington, D.C. area, we were excited to be part of it. We were just, the technology was new and everything was so cool. Now, what we did as little as 10 years ago is old hat. They don't even consider using those techniques to install the work, number one, or it's not the same engineering data that we were using. And so now all of our people are everything's zooming up, everything has got to go a little bit faster, and it's a challenge, especially for tradesmen, to constantly be working as hard as they can in the field, but at the same time, there's a lot of studying, there's a lot of updating, there's a lot of upgrading that they have to do on a regular basis. I would say it's probably more hectic than I've ever seen it. That's for darn sure.
Hmm. And to tie it into an actionable statement, by the way, David, so like you, for example, have training sessions on specific topics to ensure that your team is well equipped to handle the net new things that are happening down the pike. Some of these things are voluntary, right? And some of them are mandatory. How do you pick and choose what to make voluntary versus mandatory, or?
Some of it are product specifics. So I'd say a recent one that our team did, we did a mandatory one with all of our service department because we've been doing a lot of service upgrades lately, a lot more than we traditionally have been doing year over year. And that's part of it is just a demand in electrification. People are going from gas stoves to electric stoves. They're going from gas vehicles to electric cars, right? They're adding mini splits or heat pumps that are all electric. So now we're seeing people go from 100 to 200 amp panels, or some even 2 to 400 amp panels. So what we decided to do, because the utility companies are like, we cannot continue to upgrade this entire street. So we started working with some smart panel companies, and the smart panel companies brought in all of their products. They talked to our technicians, and we started teaching our customers, or really we taught our technicians so they could teach our customers. Instead of spending $5,000 to $10,000 to upgrade your panel, maybe we spend $3,500 to $5,000 to do a panel swap with a smart panel. And now you can start to get that technology. Same thing, we did it with some of the EV charging. Some other voluntary trainings will typically be if it's a like new certification, if something that to help kind of better them. Like for example, we offered everyone, it's mandatory that they have to do OSHA 10, but we said anyone who is interested in doing OSHA 30 will cover the cost, but you do it on your own time. So those are some of the opportunities that they can do.
Yeah.
Other team members have tried to get product specific trainings. And if they're doing it always day to day, like for example, a generator technician, we're going to say, okay, we're going to put that through. That's a mandatory training for you. If you're going to do generator technician, you have to do that. But if you're someone else that they just want to learn about a charger or learn about something else, it might be one of those ones where, yeah, it's voluntary. You can go ahead and learn a little bit more. So I'd say it really kind of depends. If most of our team is asking the question, then normally we'll say, okay, we're going to make that a mandatory one. Or if we're seeing it change in the code. So, for example,
Got
every
it.
3 years, Massachusetts goes to the newest National Electric Code. So, coming up 2026, we go to the NEC 2026. So, for that, we have a 2-day event where everybody gets a code update. So, it's a required 15-hour code update course. So we do it right away at the beginning of the year. Once the code comes out, we get everyone a book and everybody goes through that code update class. That way there's no questions about it. We know all of our technicians have the most up-to-date code. So those are things that we try to figure out between mandatory and voluntary.
Got it. Let's move on to the next thing. Using systems and AI to protect skilled time. So we talked about AI being not a problem, an opportunity. Let's call it an opportunity, but it is a thirsty and hungry opportunity. But it's a thirsty and hungry opportunity because people are using it, and it's not just folks that are in offices in high rises in New York City that are using it. Everyone's using it, including the folks on this call right now. So it'd be interesting to see how you all are planning on using certain systems, technology, and AI to get the most out of your team, especially with the labor gap, right? Like not everyone wants to hire more people, but there's also a smaller pool. So how are you ensuring that you're getting more out of the people that you already have and ensuring that people are not doing busy work, et cetera? So yeah, I'd love to know, Woody, like how are you using AI right now or envision it for 2026 with teams?
Sure. So a lot of the people that I work with, especially on the mechanical service side, the big thing with AI, I think, is the opportunity for the technicians to be able to better give a great description of what type of work they're doing, what they're trying to get accomplished, and how things are going in the field. And that in turn elevates our level of service to the client. And that in turn elevates, hopefully, the client's appreciation of what we're doing and moves us up a couple of levels with our competitors. The fact of the matter is, with our sales teams as well, AI is helping us tremendously because a lot of the job description or a scope description or what we're actually going to try to get accomplished in a planned maintenance contract or even in a small rebuild or a rehab. This gives us the opportunity to very quickly come up with a clean, concise scope of work that's taken care of just by putting in a couple of pieces of information and allowing AI to take off with it. For me personally, with a lot of the training that I do, it's helped me tremendously get my message across to my students, get my message across to the people that I'm talking to on a regular basis in a more clean, concise way than I ever thought I could ever do. It makes me sound like I'm a smart guy, and I'm really not a smart guy. You know what I mean? I'm just a pipe fitter. That's all I am. But that's sort of how I see AI working. And even on the job site, as our guys are tracking what they're getting accomplished, how it's getting accomplished, and what has to happen in the future, it's a tremendous tool.
David, you went into some really like nitty gritty stuff as well earlier before this call as well that I'd love to dive into as well because it's some really like functional stuff people can apply literally like right now, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, something that I traditionally use, I'd say every single day, moment of the day, is I have an AI that's embedded in my email. It sorts all of my emails that come in into 10 folders. Within those 10 folders, it says, hey, David, this is something you have to respond to. These are things that are, FYI. Here are some comments, maybe a meeting update. Here's a marketing thing. Don't worry about it. And so
Hey.
what it and so what it does though is it really helps me focus and figure out what do I need to put a response to. But it also puts the response for me. So anything in the to response section, it's going to draft up a response. Those responses sound like me and they're actually better than what I probably would have put together because what it does is it listens to what I'm doing.
What is the name
Some
of this
people might
tool,
think
by the way? What was the name of the tool?
I use it as Fixer AI. So and this is one for me that it saved me a ton of time. I have really learned a lot from using it. And it's also helped me just shrink down the amount of time I spent in my emails. I'd spend 3-4 hours a day sometimes
Yeah.
sorting emails, going through stuff, all that. Now I can do it in maybe 10 minutes if I don't have a ton of time. I can just look at the ones I need to action on. This also has been working for a lot of my team. So not just these types of ones in the emails, right? I'm more on a sales side. It's important that I get back to customers quick, but so does it is for our customers. So our technicians in the field, they actually have the ability to talk. We use BuildOps, so they have the ability to talk to the app and have it put together a much better formulated response, kind of similar to what he was talking about. So we sound a lot more educated. And then when it goes from the work order that we've put together in the office to the guys in the field, when they close out that work order, we have all those notes so we can automatically put it on the invoice again. So it has a lot more information for the customers. Also started using it with some predictive maintenance and preventative maintenance. So just talking with more customers, hey, here are some things that we should do. What are types of use cases in certain buildings or things that might be issues? We've started using AI just to try to figure out like what are potential other sales opportunities or safety issues that might come up with this type of business. And then honestly, I think the biggest one for us going forward is just communication across the board. It has helped our whole company communicate at a more professional level, whether it's through social media that we've been posting, whether it's through just our emails that we're doing, whether it's just communication with the customers. It's helped us sound better, do things quicker, more efficient. So it's definitely not replacing anyone in our office or in our field. If anything, it's just allowing them to be a little bit more efficient, or in this case, some of them a lot more efficient.
Yeah, that tracks with like I'm glad you mentioned about not replacing. So we had a user conference this past fall called Forge down in San Diego, and we had a Harvard professor who talked a little bit about AI specifically and its impact. And that's a quote that again I'm going to quote him specifically that it's not going to be replacing the process or remove the worker, but it will enable that worker to be an informant router. Most companies are thinking about AI wrong. This isn't going to be about replacing people. It's about enhancing productivity. Totally agree. We did talk a little bit about so for context for everyone here, like my background is writing. Man, this chat, as Woody has says, man, ChatGPT does a really good job writing, and so I use it all the time as a writer, and I am personally nervous about literally my brain, like kind of going stagnant and I'm not working that muscle enough. Is there concern from the trades at all that like certain jobs are going to be again not replacing the human being, but perhaps like squashing the skill set of that is developed when you're actually doing the work itself, right? Is there anything like that that's concerned in the trades for AI?
Critical thinking. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a big
yeah,
one. A lot of times our technicians, they'll walk into something that if it's not on plans and specs where it's a new build, they're walking into a scenario where it's a service call or emergency call. They don't know what might be happening.
yeah.
That's something that they need to go back and realize, like, here are some of the issues that we've had previously, or this is my previous experience. How are we going to potentially work through this? What are we going to do here? How are we going to fix this? Even the stuff that is plans and specs, I'm going to say this as someone who went to engineering school, so I can say it, engineers are not always 100% correct. So they
What do
actually
you,
so they might have drawn something up, but it may not actually be able to be built the way that it was drawn. But if you don't necessarily know that or have that experience, you're going to lose it there.
Yeah.
I will also say there's like basic arithmetic skills that are needed for certain jobs and some more advanced calculations that are needed just even in the everyday electrical side. Not saying everyone needs to know how to do a load calculation or do all of these things by hand, but you at least need to know that the AI is doing it correctly. So there's some of those things that if you start to lose that and rely too much on a calculator or on AI or something like that, we're going to lose that type of knowledge that's out there. And I think it's going to be tough for it to come back for a lot of people.
I think you're right, Dave, and I think it is RC. I think it is a concern that after a while we get so used to these tools that if we don't have those tools, sometimes we can't complete our job the way we want to do it. I hearken back to when before most mechanicals have and I'm sure electricals as well have huge fab shops and coming out of those fab shops we've got pieces of pipe and pieces of apparatus that it's sort of like A to A, B to B, C to C. Back in the old days they throw us a big pile of pipe with all the fittings and say build me a steam station. And people would go, yeah, let's go ahead and get it done. I'm not sure that there are many technicians out there on the mechanical side that can do that anymore because everything is already drawn up for them, already calculated for them to the nth degree. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. All I'm saying is that I think it does affect the way that we look at things and the way we're able to operate mentally when we're
Sure.
working on whatever it is we're working on.
For sure. And Joseph here says he's an architect and wholeheartedly agrees. They still need to learn the basics or they are bound to fail and it could be lethal in construction.
No doubt.
Yeah.
100% agree.
Do you envision in 2026 that that folks should be adopting AI like like as if you're at a salad bar and I'll have this and this. So you'll have your chat GPT and you'll have inside your Google Sheet this, or is it like more effective to have a singular AI that talks to another? David, you talked about like communication, like how like some things can transfer from one part of the job to the other. And so I'm wondering how much more contractors should be invested in an AI system that is kind of like does communicate with each other, or if it behooves them to do the salad bar kind of thing.
Well, I think you don't want to diverse too much because now you have all this tech stacking
Yeah, right.
happening. And, if you're only using 20% of this and 10% of this and 50% of this, whatever it might be, it's going to cost you a lot of money, but
Yeah.
then you also may not be maximizing what you can get out of it. And now you got to train this AI, you have to train this AI, you have to do this, teach everyone. And when all of these update, now you have to reteach everyone. So I think you need to be selective and figure out what is this specific task that we're trying to complete and what can this do for us. Like for us, I was talking earlier, I have one for email that works out perfect and I have no complaints there. It also records my meetings and puts together notes. That's where it stays. I also use ChatGPT for a proposal builder. And so my team, we've trained it so much over the past, I think we fed it almost 1,000 proposals. And now it knows if we put in a description, about a paragraph or so of what the work is, it will put together the entire proposal for us to the point where it's 95, I'd say almost 98% correct, where we just have to make a couple tweaks, copy it onto our regular template and send it out there.
Mm-hmm.
Something that took time to build. And now if we keep changing and going to different ones, you're never going to have that correct, or you're not always going to have it be exactly correct. Kind of similar to what you talked about with your branding guidelines that you put together for your team. Yeah. We definitely use a lot of technology across DMH. I never wouldn't think I would say that. But as we started to do it over the past couple of years, we have 2 estimating softwares. We have an FSM system. We have a CRM system. We have a different accounting system. We use a tool for photo gathering and we use a tool for design or a couple tools for design. So we have a lot of these different tools. And then AI, some of them touch it, some of them don't. It definitely starts to add up both financially and just from the skill sets that you need to utilize them all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think David, the way you guys are doing it is a smart way to do it. Take your time, work into this a little cautiously to make sure that it's something that's going to fit what you actually need and what's actually happening. I'm not sure that AI fits into every little nook and cranny that we have in the construction world, but I do believe that it's a tremendous tool, and I think it's going to help us moving forward. Talk to me 5 years from now, because I'm damn sure that it's going to be changing one way or another, and hopefully we'll all be able to keep up with it, what's going on, and how we can best utilize those tools. But I think a cautious note is a wise one.
I anticipate that in 5 years, it's not even going to be AI, right? I can anticipate in 2 years, it's not going to be AI. It's just, it is.
It
just is. It just is, right?
Right.
All right, we're a little bit over, so I apologize for folks. We're going to go to the last topic as well. But we've kind of been, this is like an underlining current through the whole thing. We sort of talked about this a little bit earlier on as well, but like things are moving fast. It's a more demanding industry. Things are constantly changing. So how can folks in 2026 and beyond remain up to date with all these changes at the leadership level? And then how do they instruct the rest of their team to do this? Again, we talked about this a little bit, but I'd love to know specifically, David, like on the job for you, like how you like literally resources, like your schedule, like how do you make sure that your finger's on the pulse here?
mean, things are constantly changing. And so I think what's the saying? Change is the only constant in life. So, as many people who don't like change, you really have to embrace it and realize things are constantly changing. So, like, I look at it as most of my focus this year has been EV and electrification. And so, I've seen dozens of companies that we've worked with that have gone out of business and stopped doing EV chargers. So now we've
Mhm.
gone from one site. This actually happened to us this year. We installed a project in January of 2025. We went back in May of 2025 and ripped it out and put a new one in because the company went out of business. And then back in just last month in November, because again, the company they picked out went out of business. Now, I know that sounds bad for EV, but it's because some of these changes are happening, but people aren't making it so they're OCPP compliant, which is open charge point protocol, which means anyone can just put a new software on there and we solve that problem. So if they had more advanced technology there, it would have solved the problem. Looking at it and kind of figuring out what we can do for the years going forward is you got to keep the team up to date, sending out information, talking to them, having more meetings. I know that's costly, but having productive trainings and meetings. For example, our team is coming back for a holiday lunch on Friday of this week. And we're also doubling it with a CPR training class. So that way we're at least
Oh,
trying to
yeah,
use it
yeah,
as something that they can get additional learnings.
yeah.
We're bringing them all back. We're doing a nice lunch for them, but also getting additional training out of it. So
Smart.
try to maximize the time that you have with the team. We're also starting in January. Our service department is going to be doing Monday morning meetings where we're going to do a little training every Monday morning. Something I say training, but it's just a knowledge session, a learning session, something like that, and then kind of coupling it with a competition for the week. So, hey, whoever learns about this and then sells the most this coming week or does something extra, whatever it might be, gets the most Google reviews, any of that type of stuff, it adds to that competition. They get a gift card at the end of the week or the
Super
next Monday
smart.
meeting.
Super smart.
So it's kind of just creating some of that rewards and using the training opportunities as incentives because
Yes.
everyone's incentivized by something. Usually money works.
Yeah. Woody, training is your bread and butter here. How do you ensure that people are trained in the right things? How are you informed enough and maintaining your knowledge stack, if you will, to ensure that that knowledge
Sure.
can be transferred to other people at the pace that we've already discussed, which is at
Yeah,
breakneck speed?
I agree with a lot of the stuff that David was talking about. I think regular meetings, if you're in the service company, you've got to have that open and clear communication. So the more we communicate with everybody about what's going on in the industry and what's happening, not just in the industry, but also in rebates and anything that touches the client, the better off we're going to be. To do that, though, I think we've got to have people like and no one person can do it all, but you got to have somebody that's focused in on the EPA, or somebody's focused in on
Got it.
local rebates, or somebody's focused in
Right.
on the latest technology for XYZ, whatever it might be. I think that's imperative to be able to do that. The other thing that we've got to make sure that we do is, and I know this is going to sort of sound mundane compared to AI and all of those kinds of things. We've got to make sure that our people are also rich when it comes to the people skills it takes to take care of clients, to make sure that we're focusing in on their needs and make sure that we've got all of the tools and all of the people and all of the focus that it's going to take to really, really grow our business. And more than anything, take care of those clients, because if it wasn't for our clients, we'd be sitting on a street corner, drinking a bottle of wine or something like that. The fact of the matter is, it's one of the most important things we do. And the sad part about this is, even though it's one of the most important things that we do, many companies don't remember that we've got to make sure that everybody's pulling that rope in the same direction. Whatever your core values are, whatever your mission statement is, if everybody in your company doesn't know what they are, man, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle mightily.
Can I do like as a marketer, as a brand marketer who's very focused on brand experience and the end audience experience, I guess, if you will, because it could be a customer, it could be a prospect, it doesn't really matter. To me, I just want to as we say, double tap on that and say, like, because of AI, a differentiator is ensuring that you are doubling down on the human experience at all costs, because AI is democratizing a certain level of efficiency and productivity and whatever it may be. So who you are at your core values, your company values, etc., truly becomes a differentiator for sure. It's what will make you be remembered, because everyone else is going to be able to adopt the same tools as you at some point and level out just like you, for sure.
Well said.
Yeah.
Rude.
Cool. Folks, we are well over, so I apologize for that. I'm gonna do some housekeeping here. So basically what's gonna happen here is I got a few questions that are still up here. We will answer all these questions. I will follow up with the folks who asked those questions separately. I'm gonna send an email, I'm gonna say tomorrow. So look for an email from me. It'll have a recording for this webinar, probably some links as well, that based on the conversation we had. Other than that, Woody, David, thank you so much. Happy holidays, Woody. Good luck with the grandkids and spoiling
Thanks,
them so
bud.
that
Absolutely.
parents like us have to deal with the repercussions.
Yes,
Bless you,
exactly right.
David. Thank you so much. I appreciate everyone's time.
Great
Thank
spending
you.
time with y'all. Thank
All
you.
right, bye.
Yeah, thank you.